was not, he would run into trouble or blocks or whatever they would be and work through it. He was able to write that stuff. And we just had a great time for a year. And if you go back at the end, I got off the book at the end because Len went over to DC. So we did 12 issues together. And the last page I drew for Len's run was a splash page with Thor flying over New York City and with a big grin on his face. And, you know, Tony did a fabulous job rendering up Thor. Much better than I could have done, or maybe could do now. And there's a little billboard down in the corner somewhere where I wrote, "So long, Len, good luck," or something of that sort as he was going off to DC. And we just had a great time. We worked on a couple other things here and there, but that was really our major collaboration. And honestly, especially the first half, where it's the Asgard, more high fantasy, those stories really worked pretty well. And we were kicking some ass and stuff. Couldn't be more delighted. I said it wasn't a funny story, but I was thrilled to work with him. We were good pals. Sorry he's gone. I'm sorry I can't call up and talk to him now.
Well, luckily for Walt, I have a funny story.
Good.
So where I get to spend the most quality time with Len was at San Diego Con every year. They had a fan versus pro trivia contest every year. And Len and I were always on the team because we were the only two human beings on earth who read every comic book that had ever been published. And Len was better than I was, which chat my ass, but it's a whole different story. The moderators knew, and the fans in the audience asking questions we knew a lot of stuff. But we found Len's Achilles heel. The one thing he didn't know, the one thing he could always stump Len with, was a story written by Len Wein. It was maddening. The most obvious questions, and he would just sit there and he'd open his mouth and then a feather would come out. Talk about running a Lamborghini into a brick wall. It became a way of torturing him at least 2 or 3 times every contest.
You remember we did one year the Beat the Geeks guys?
Yeah.
There's a show on Comedy Central called Beat the Geeks, and
I remember.
They called up and they called the convention and said, we want to have our Beat the Geeks comic experts challenge the pro team. So and they made me the MC for some reason. So we put together the questions and things like that. And these poor kids from the Beat the Geeks, they had to wear these robes, first of all, which was kind of humiliating. And they're standing me beforehand, we're going to get our asses kicked. So
by the way, we were sweating because we didn't know what they knew. We were sweating.
They knew they were going to go down in flames. And as it started off, it was like, Muhammad Ali taking on Helen Hayes. It was, and in the back of the room, there are the people who are producing the Beat the Geek show who think they're going to get a really great publicity thing out of this. And they were sweating and they were sad and things like that. And I kept trying to level the playing field. I kept changing the rules and trying to give them a chance to catch up.
This question's worth 100 points.
And at one point, the question was, and I remember that Mark will remember this, the mileage from Gotham City to, okay, well, how much is it?
The question that you asked was, within 5 miles, how far is the Batcave?
16. Boom.
Yeah. And I went, wait, and he came out with the answer. And I could see the
14 miles.
14 miles, damn.
Yeah, and I could see the lady from the Beat the Geeks thing go, oh shit. So
that was the very first question. And at that moment, Len and I looked at each other like, oh, thank God.
And so the end game, we actually changed the rules. We allowed the Beat the Geeks team to bring up extra players. So it was like them and anybody they wanted on their team taking on these guys. And Len was so happy.
Yep.
So the end game was like, we stole the end game from Win Ben Stein's Money. Just we used that route. And we asked 2 different guys, and Len was the one for the pro team, as I recall, right? Yeah. So we sent Len out, and Len was he came back and he aced it. I think he got all 10 in less time than the other guy. And he was like, I never remember him being happier than that moment. I understand, and Mark may not know this yet, that next year at Centennial Con, in tribute to Len, they're going to do the Fan Pro contest again. And every single question will be about Len Wein comics.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah, he loved that.
He did. He would say to me afterwards, he said, there are 364 days a year that this is useless. But this is my day.
Yeah, and he was, that was one of the things Len, some of the quality time I spent with Len the last couple of years, Len was on dialysis 2 or 3 days a week. And for a while, for some reason, he had to go to a place near my house, and Len lived 15, 20 miles from me, but he would go to a place near me, so he'd call up and say, I'm going to be in dialysis at that place again, which means sitting there for 4 hours or 5 hours while they, put you through this. And most people sit there and watch TV, or they bring a book along, and Len would bring DVDs. And he didn't need the distraction, because he could always find something on TV he loved, and he could put in DVD or something. But he asked me to come over, and I'd sit there, and it's not a very cheery place to be. It's a very sad place to be. So you'd see these poor, sad people who are strapped to these machines, sitting there for buying little cots and things like that for them. And then there's this one little cubicle with it, the two of us are laughing our asses off. Everybody's sort of going, what are those, what's going on? How do you laugh? Let them laugh in a situation like that. We'd sit there and tell jokes or tell libelous stories about mutual acquaintances and such. And it was just a lot of fun to do that with the guy. And I missed that. The last 2 times I saw him, the last time I saw him was in San Diego. And he looked terrible. He just looked in bad shape. It was heartbreaking. And then the time before that, my friend Amber and I went over to see him at the hospital. And he was just out of it. We went over to see him, and he was just barely able to realize we were there. And he was pleased we'd come to see him, but we couldn't really have a conversation with him. And then it was like 3 or 4 nights later, we went to the Pantages to see Alton Brown, his children, Alton Brown from the Food Network. And Chris was there. And we ran into her, and we talked about Len, and she just kind of told us, what was up with him. And I had the 2 months, I thought, he's in bad shape. I've been hearing that now for 35 years. It's when I got the call that he had died, I thought, well, okay. I mean, I understand that. It's not horrifying, but it also, it's a tragedy on the one hand. On the other hand, you say, well, gee, he made it, 40 years past the predictions, or 50 years past the predictions, whatever it was. There's a story. Len was in the hospital. This is before I even met him. He and Marv Wolfman used to ride their bicycles over to Jack Kirby's house, and to visit him. And then Len was hospitalized, and Marv told the Kirbys about this. And Jack called DC Comics and said, one of your devout fans is in the hospital. He needs some cheering up. Can you send him something to cheer him up? And DC had Mike Sikowski and Murphy Anderson do a big drawing of all of the DC superheroes going, get well, Len. They sent over this original art from him. And Jack sent over a big drawing of Captain America, like that. And then Jack went to see him in the hospital. And Jack at that point had grown a beard. And he looked kind of scruffy, and Roz said to him, you can't go into a hospital with that scruffy beard, shave it off. And she made him, Jack shave his beard off when he went to the hospital. And for years, Len would say, I owe you a beard, Jack. So one time when Len was still living in New York, and he was coming out to visit, I'm driving him to the airport. And Jack was in the hospital at the time. Jack had a heart attack. And I said, it suddenly dawned on me, I said, Len, we should have gone to see Jack. You should have shaved your beard off for him. And he goes, oh my God, you're right. Quick, let's go get him a razor. I said, Len, you gotta have time. The plane leaves in an hour and 20 minutes, or whatever it was. We don't have time to get to the hospital. Oh, please. I had to practically physically restrain him. He wanted to move his flight. And I said, anyway, he didn't. he was so upset that I wouldn't let him shave his beard and go see Jack. Because it was such a perfect joke, it was such a perfect ending to that story. Yeah. Does anybody else, we're just talking about Len, anybody else want to say anything about him? Anybody here? You can just tell us what your favorite Len Wein comic book was. Yes.
I would love to say one thing.
Sure.
I never got a chance to actually meet Len.
Hey, let's thank Mark Wade for being here, folks. Sure.
I have to get downstairs, luckily it's less than 14 miles.
I never got a chance to actually physically meet Len. I tried to get him to appear in Denver for the last few years, and his health problems prevented that. I did get to correspond with him a lot too, and he was so eager to come out, and the fact that he had to have dialysis, I was trying to arrange dialysis for him, and it just got too much, and then he was supposed to come out last year, and then so I touched base with him, he said, I probably won't be able to make it this year because I cracked my neck, and I'm like, that's amazing. But I was even working on getting him out this year again. I had a dream to Denver Comic Con. I have a dream panel that I wanted to do because Len was one of the first writers that I could actually identify when I was reading comics in the early 70s. It was Len, Cary Bates, and Elliot, who were the three writers that I could identify and actually saw it out there and stuff. The Flash, when Len was writing the backup, the elongated man, and the World's Finest. And so my dream panel was to have Len and Cary and Elliot on a panel sharing stories about what it was like.
Carrie doesn't socialize.
Uh,
Carrie doesn't socialize. He's a hermit.
I know. So actually, I was still going to use that as incentive for him to come out and say, and I'm still going to keep trying because I correspond with Carrie too. But that was a dream panel. And so finally, the reason I'm typing up is if there's one fortunate thing about Len's passing when he did is that it was close to this convention, and we could reminisce about his mark on comics and all of us. If it had to wait for San Diego or something later on, it may not happen, and people's memories fade and they move on to other things. But thank you all for being up here and sharing.
Well, as I said, this panel came about instantly. I was corresponding with the people who were in this convention. I said, if you do a Len Wein panel, I'll moderate it. And they said, they put it on the schedule right instantly. We have lived long enough, some of us, to have the obituary week or something. And I have like 4,000 people in my address book. So the odds are that every week somebody's going to die in there. It's just it works out that way. And I know some of them are in their advanced age. Len is a guy who lived much longer than we expected. But there's no such thing as, the right time to go for a guy like that. And because he just loved being around conventions and people. Ellie and I were at the funeral a couple weeks ago, and there was a nice turnout of people, and wide mix of Len people in all different walks of life. It wasn't just comic book people, it wasn't just TV people, it was a little bit of everything.
Did you know he was in an improv?
Yes, I knew he was in an improv group. Yeah, he loved that. He loved being in the improv group. He just loved making new friends.
He may have been the most cheerful guy I ever knew, and considering all the health issues he had, really, as far as I knew, his entire life, it's kind of astounding to me that he could bear that burden. And somehow, now, I don't know what he was like in his private moments, no idea, but at least whenever I talked to him, whenever I hanging out, whatever we were doing, never had anything about that. It might come up, but it was never presented as a weight. He was just himself. He was just a smiling guy. Bill Sienkiewicz did a drawing of him, as Bill is wont to do after people check out. And it just got this great Len Wein grin on the face that just caught what Len was about. And Bill's wonderful, done a lot of great portraits. I thought that was one of the best ones I've seen him do. I thought it just caught the essence of what Len was like.
He just remained a fan.
Yeah.
You know, not just of comics, because I would run into him at science fiction conventions as well. When the Beauty and the Beast TV show was on CBS, he fell in love with Vincent, the character. I mean, it spoke to Len on an emotional level. And he actually cosplayed as Vincent at a couple of shows. It was like the only working professional I knew at the time who would actually dress up for a con. And he was having a ball.
Wow.
Well, you know, he lived as long as he did because he was so positive, for heaven's sakes, you know. People say, you know, I don't believe I can make my cancer go away with my mind. He made a lot of things go away with his mind.
Deadlines.
When he went through a period, this is a million years ago, and I don't know, I'm going to say talking out of school and this, I don't know how, you know, Len, I mean, I'm kind of like Len, my dad, a lot of echo in this one, but Len was, I'm not the sharpest deadline guy. There's a Mike Royer story here about never missing a deadline. That would not be on my obituary. But basically, Len and I were, you know, when we were on the same book together, it was quite a struggle for us to get that book out in time, to get it out in the printer. And Len went through a period after his dad died, which is a long time ago now, I don't remember when, maybe we were on 4, where he, or maybe a little before that, where we were talking about it, and he presented it as though a lot of the writing he had done to that point had really been, in a sense, for his father. I'm not quite sure in what sense. I don't know if he saw his father as an audience. I don't know if he wanted to please his dad. I'm not sure how that worked. But he found it very difficult to write after his father was gone for some time. I don't know, forever or whatever. But he was having trouble just because it was like that spur to get him to write was no longer there. And it was tough for him to do it. We still managed to get 12 issues of Thor out in 12 months. I have no idea how. I don't have any idea how that happened. But it was difficult for him, but he was able to, you know, just smile and get through it, and we had a lot of fun.
All right, if nobody else has a story they want to tell, I'm going to wrap this up here.
No, I want you to tell a story.
All right, I'm sorry.
This was a story with Gene Wilder.
Oh,
Did you do this one?
Yes, I told this.
I did it on your blog.
I did it on my
I did,
blog.
I know, that's why I knew about it.
Has everybody read this?
No.
Have you guys read this blog?
All right, I'll tell you, we'll close with the Gene Wilder story.
All right, good.
Len there was a time when Len was living in the East Coast. And when that marriage ended, he moved out to LA. But this is when he was still New York based. But he'd come out a lot. We knew he would eventually move to Los Angeles. And he'd come out and I'd play host for him. I was glad when he finally moved out here into LA. Here, I'm not in LA now. I moved to LA because I didn't have to play host anymore. And we'd go places. We went a couple times. I didn't tell this part of it. We got a little time now. I took Len and a bunch of people to the Magic Castle, which is a private club I'm a member of. And in order to go to the Magic Castle, you have to wear a jacket and tie and dress pants and dress shoes. And I think 4 times I took a bunch of comic book people up to the castle in 4 years, and 3 of the 4 times Len didn't get in because he had the wrong wardrobe, wrong shoes or something like that. So he'd have to, I would give him my car, let him go to a movie while we went to the castle. One time we went there, and we had with us, I think we had Mike Barr and Steve Gerber and Len and Mark. This is the time Len got in, and about a whole bunch of comic book writers. And we go into the close-up gallery where they have people do close-up, and we saw a guy who was a card shark, who could deal anybody any number of he could deal you the kings, or he could deal you the queens, whatever it was. He could just, by touch, he could tell you. But the cards are probably in front of you. He'd say, "Give me between 1 and 52," and you go 33. And you go, "Here, 33 cards, count them out," and he'd be accurate. He could tell the difference between 33 cards and 32 cards and 34 cards, and he was blind.
Well,
Now, you may believe or disbelieve this, unless you watch Penn and Teller Fool Us. He was on a couple weeks ago. His name was Richard Turner. But we sat there and we went, "Oh my God, we found Daredevil." And I was at that time writing for a show called That's Incredible, and I put Richard Turner on That's Incredible like the next week. He was on it, and and I just got him on Penn and Teller, Fool Us this year, he's a friend of mine, and he fooled Penn and Teller. I think it reruns next week, or the week after. But if you go to YouTube and search for Richard Turner Fool Us, you'll see this guy in action, and it's very striking. And Len was a huge fan of his. He loved going to the castle. Anyway, one time when Len was out, I said to him, and I was connected at that time to most of the TV business pretty well. I said, pick a TV show you want to go to see taped or filmed, and I'll get us on the set. And the minute I said that, I should say, except for MASH, because MASH didn't have a studio audience, and MASH was tough to get into. Before I can say that, Len says, let's go see MASH. And I said, well, pick something else. He said, no, you promised me any show I wanted, we're going to go see MASH. So I went, okay. So I called somebody with 20th Century Fox, a secretary who's there, I knew, and she said, well, I can't just get you access to the set, but I can take you on the set. If you're, I can walk you in and then leave you there. So Len and two other friends of ours, one day we drive over to 20th Century Fox. I drove. That's which is germane to the story. And I meet the secretary, and she takes us into the set of MASH, and we stand there, there's no place for an audience. You just stand by the camera. There's no bleachers or anything like that. We just stood there for about 2 hours watching. Was essentially a scene between Alan Arnold and Harry Morgan. And, you know, if you go to see like a show like, you know, a sitcom, Cheers, you see the whole show taped in front of you. If you're at MASH for 2 hours, you see one scene done 12 times, and you don't see the whole cast. So Len was kind of disappointed we weren't going to see Loretta Swit wasn't there, Jamie Farr wasn't there. Gary Burkhoff was also in the scene. But you know, we only saw like a smidgen of one scene, basically. And Len was kind of disappointed. And we had to be someplace else that afternoon. So he was like, oh, I wanted to see the whole show. I wanted to say, oh, no, Len, that's all you got. You wanted to be at MASH. This is what you see at MASH for 2 hours. So now we're going to go to lunch in the commissary, and then we're going to go to our next appointment we have. So at the 20th Century Fox lot at that time, the commissary was divided in half. The left half was sit-down, fancy tablecloths, waiters in red jackets, and the menu and the order, and it was expensive, it was fancy food and such. And the right-hand side of the commissary was a cafeteria where the stage crew worked. And that's where you get a cheeseburger, and that's where you get a hot dog, or like that. It was perfectly good food. And I didn't like the rich side of it. I'd been there, I'd eaten there, the food was not that great, I didn't like it, I thought it was stuffy and pretentious, and I was getting fed up with the whole day anyway. So I said, we're going to go to the crew side, the cafeteria side. And Len didn't like that. He said, but the movie stars are over at the rich side. I said, well, that's too bad, we're going to the cafeteria side. I've got the car keys. So grudgingly, we get in line at the cafeteria. I'm fine with it, but Len is just complaining. And he's saying to me, we should be over on the other side, because that's where the movie stars are all eating. And I look behind, now I'm standing ahead of Len, and I'm looking back at him, down the line. Now I can see, I can't see this, that the person right behind him is Gene Wilder, who at that moment was shooting a film called, I think he was shooting The World's Greatest Lover, anyway, at that moment, Gene Wilder was the biggest movie star you were going to find on the Fox lot. You know, he wasn't maybe the biggest star, but he'd just done Silver Streak, and he'd done Young Frankenstein, and he was a pretty big star. So I'm looking now, you got to imagine my point of view here. Here's Len Wein going on about, we should be where the movie stars. There are no movie stars here, but movie stars never come to this side. And Gene Wilder is standing right behind him, hearing this and just loving it. He's just like, this is just wonderful. And he's going on, and Mr. Wilder's eyes meet mine. He can see my face, and he's just like, and I was kind of like goading Len on for Gene Wilder. Well, don't you think some movie stars might eat your Len? He goes, no movie star would come to this, you know. And Mr. Gene Wilder is enjoying the hell of this. And finally, he goes, you know, and this is the master timing of a great comic actor. He finally goes, okay, the joke has run its course. He says, he goes like this, and I know what he means. So I turned to Len and I said, Len, would you ask the guy behind you to pass us a dish of the corn? And Len goes, oh, sure, yeah. Excuse me, can you get me a dish of the corn? And Gene Wilder hands the corn to Len, and Len hands the corn to me, and Len does one of these, like... And he not a double take, it was like a quintuple take. It was just absolutely wonderful, and Wilder just loved his reaction so much. And we shook hands with Gene Wilder and said about, 8 geeky things to him. It was not, when Gene Wilder died on my blog, I never got a chance to meet him, and I'd forgotten, because we said something so inconsequential. And Len just loved this. He went around, it was much, much better than if we'd been on the commissary side and we would have gone, oh, look, there's Kate Jackson over there, way over on the other side. But this, we actually interacted with Gene Wilder and shared this funny moment with him. And I remember that so much. And so for about the next 2 years, when I was with Len, I would say to him, we talk about it. By the way, Len, Gene Wilder's right behind you. He would replicate the take, and it was just, that's one of my most vivid memories of Len. That's the whole story, folks. So it was just a very lovely little moment. It was
Len could laugh.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole thing, which is the point in a way.
Yeah.
He could laugh about that, as amused as anyone.
Now, the great thing was, if Gene Wilder had just been wearing a really big suit. That's part of it. Anyway, folks, thank you for joining us, letting us talk about We're going to do a photo op here.
Want to stand up?
It's right
Okay,
here.
we're going to stand
Okay. Back here.
All right.
All right.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oops, sorry.
Feet. You're always doing it with the feet.
He dances. He's the dancing photographer.
I'm the feet guy.
Thank you all, folks.
Thank you guys.
All the foot goes up, that's the end of the shoot.
Hey, Mark. Have 30 seconds? Sure, you can have any time you have to stand up. Actually, I think
Yeah, I remember I was trying to look for this thing that David Gerald did, and basically about I never wanted to leave if there's anybody sad, but unfortunately he did that when he passed away.
Roger, if I don't get a chance to see you for the minutes, thank you for your invite.